Sorry, my video cut out there for a moment, but yeah, like I was saying, I like Buffalo plus 2.5 and the over 43.5. Next up, we got LA Rams -3 at Minnesota. Kind of an easy game for me, honestly. Minnesota kind of squeaked by. Obviously, the Bears. Rams, I think, have kind of turned the corner. Obviously, since that, again, the same situation as the Bills. They had that blowout win against the bad team in Jacksonville. Got their confidence back, and they look better on both sides of the ball since then. So, I like the Rams -3. Like the under 49.5. I just don't see Minnesota. I don't think Thielen will be back in time. I just don't see Minnesota scoring at a high enough rate for this to hit. Rams can score, but they are also a little bit prone to like dragging out drives in that, and it seems like a high total for two teams like who just played very low scoring games the previous week. So give me the under 49.5 and the Rams -3. Next up, Baltimore Ravens +3 at the Cincinnati Bengals. Tough game to figure out. Obviously, divisional game. Cincinnati won the first meeting pretty handily. Cincinnati, won kind of an ugly game, obviously, against Denver last week. Baltimore had almost a moral victory of their own against the Packers, losing by only 1 point without Lamar Jackson. I don't know. A little crazy to say, but dare I say quarterback controversy? I mean, Huntley looks pretty good. He runs well, maybe not quite as well as Lamar, but he runs pretty well himself. And he just seems a little more confident throwing the football. Whether he plays, whether Lamar plays, I think there's not a huge difference either way. Cincinnati just hasn't really impressed me a lot the last couple of weeks. Really, since they started the season pretty hot, they were kind of the early favorite in that division. They've kind of fallen back to earth a little bit, and I think these two teams are evenly matched enough. I'll just take the points wherever they are. So give me 3 points on either team, really, I would probably take it. Cincinnati was +3, I might take them. But in this case, the Ravens are +3. I'll take the Ravens with the points. Could honestly be a very, very down to the wire close game. And I like the under 45 in this one. Divisional game, AFC North, December, Boxing Day. It's going to be cold. It's going to be tough to score. It's going to be a grinded out kind of game. I like the under pretty comfortably here. I could see it's being like 20-17 either way. Hopefully Baltimore winning by that margin, or else push. Next up, the New York Giants +11 at the Philadelphia Eagles. Crazy line. I mean, I don't know. Neither of these teams are obviously going anywhere. The Eagles could very well still make the playoffs, but I don't think anyone. I mean, they're still at least a year away. They got 3 first-round picks coming into the next draft, I think. This wasn't supposed to be the year they would contend anyway. So the fact that they're laying 11 points in the division is crazy. Obviously, the Giants without Daniel Jones, for what it's worth. We saw, what's his name? The long neck guy. Mike Glennon do next to nothing productive against the Cowboys, and really his whole career. Maybe Jake Fromm starts. It's not going to be much difference. But I just think 11 points is too much. The Giants' defense is still pretty decent. They look good against Dallas, honestly. Like they kind of hung. If the Giants' offense could have just done anything, they would have covered that game against the Cowboys. But the defense played, for the fact that the defense was on the field way more. They hung in there to keep Dallas to 21 points with all their weapons healthy, pretty much. That said a lot, and I think the Giants' defense will do just enough in this game. The fact that it's within that, it's +11, so it's like a touchdown and a field goal. Like, Philadelphia could still win comfortably, and the Giants could still cover. It's too many points in the late of the year divisional game. You got players playing for their jobs next year, pride, this and that. +11, it's too many points. As bad as the Giants are at quarterback and really on offense in general, I just think their defense is good enough to hang in there. But I weirdly like the over 40.5 in this game. It's almost like a bit of a hedge pick, because if I am wrong on the spread, I feel it's going to be because Philly just runs all over them, puts up a lot of points, running the ball, play action, this and that. So I like the over 40.5. especially if Jake Fromm starts. Obviously the Cowboys were in prevent, but he looked a little more confident throwing the ball. So I think this game can squeak a low total over 40.5. Next up, Detroit Lions plus 5.5 at the Atlanta Falcons. Easy pick, taking the Lions plus 5.5, maybe even money line. Coming off a big win, they look good doing it too. They didn't just squeak by a fluky win. They beat the Cardinals bad on both sides of the ball. The Falcons, although kind of feisty at times, they haven't shown me anything in the last couple weeks to be worthy of a 5.5 point spread against a team that just beat what was once the number 1 seed in the NFC. It just seems too easy. So, if I were to overthink it, I would bet the Falcons because of that, but it's just too easy. I'm going to take an easy pick here, plus 5.5 lines, probably money line too. But for the sake of tallying my scores, I'll go with the points. And over 43 as well. Lions just put up 30 against a decent defense. Seem to have found some rhythm running the ball well. Falcons defense is okay at times. Overall, not great. I think the Lions can put up mid-20s on their own. Falcons are, prone to keeping any, point total in that alive late in the game. I think this game could squeak over 43. 1 second. Sorry. Talking too much, a little thirsty. Next up, Jacksonville Jaguars -1 at the New York Jets. Battle of two bad teams. It seems like every week there's the same 5 or 6 teams. One of them is playing one another. Every week there's that one toilet bowl matchup. This week it's Jaguars Jets. Jets have been playing a little better lately though. We'll give them credit. They're maybe only the 4th or 5th worst team in the league. The Jaguars are probably the worst team. Everyone thought, Urban Meyer's fired. The Jaguars are going to play inspired and win. And I sniffed that out. It was all over Houston, +5. I think it ended up being, the line, Urban Meyer got fired. And the Jaguars were favored by 2 more points by the time the game started. So I jumped all over that. I've seen the Jaguars play. They stink. Houston obviously won that game outright. And I think the Jets will as well win this game. At New York, outright. It's going to be cold, probably. I don't know. Neither team's going to do much. I just think it's going to be an ugly, ugly, ugly game where the Jets pull away. Even with a lot of players, Jets, I think the coach Salah is out with COVID right now. A lot of players on both sides of the ball. I don't know. The Jaguars just suck. They're one of the worst. If you watch them, you truly watch them play, A, you don't understand how they beat the Bills, and B, they just look bad. So I like the Jets outright, +1, and under 41.5. This is going to be an ugly, ugly low-scoring game. I feel like, especially in New York. If it was in Jacksonville, I could maybe see a few more points, but in New York in December, it's going to be a bad one. I'll say Jets 16, Jaguars 13 is my prediction. So take Jets in the under. Next up, LA Chargers -10 at Houston Texans. Gonna try to get things going a little bit more here because it's late. Chargers -10 is my pick. Again, Houston shows flashes at times, but overall, the Chargers, I like their, again, kind of a moral win in a way. Their defense, again, let them down against the Chiefs, which it has kind of all year. I just think Houston's not very good. They're probably the second worst team in the league behind the Jaguars, who they beat. But yeah, I like the Chargers kind of playoff urgency to have a huge big game here. And I like over 45.5. Chargers defense is terrible outside of Bosa. Can you imagine how bad the Chargers defense would be without Bosa? He's kind of up there in sacks, pressures, all that stuff. Their defense is still terrible, even though he's putting up really good numbers. Without him, they would be record-setting bad. So I like the over 45.5. Whether it be Davis Mills, Tyrod Taylor, whoever. I think it's Davis Mills again. He's been playing pretty okay. The Texans will get 17 points, and then Chargers. I'll say Chargers 30-17 is my pick. Over 45.5. Next up, Tampa Bay Bucks -10 at Carolina. Gonna go with the Bucks -10. Bounce back spot off a tough loss. Just Tom Brady factor. Not the biggest Tom Brady fan. I just think he's going to be beyond pissed off, and the Antonio Brown return is going to be huge for them. You could argue he doesn't deserve to be back, but he maybe 1A, 1B with Godwin, Brady's favorite target. You know, Brady and Evans haven't really had the same exact chemistry that him and Brown have had, him and Godwin, him and Gronk. So, yeah, I think that's going to be big. I see Brown going for like 2 touchdowns, 100 yards. Carolina just stinks. Yeah, they're really bad. Tampa Bay's defense played incredible against the Saints, considering how much they were on the field. Holding the Saints to only 9 points was crazy. Bucks minus 10 and under 44 is my pick here. Okay, so Bucks in the under. Next up, Chicago Bears plus 6.5 at Seattle. Seattle's done. The Bears are done. Another kind of toilet bowl matchup here. Seattle, obviously, you could argue, had a shot to at least tie the game against the Rams. Yeah, they got robbed on that 4th down pass to DJ Dallas. But at best, that would have tied the game. I don't have confidence that they would have been able to win anyways. Rams would have just come back the other way and scored, which they, kind of did. Getting field goal, whatever. Like the Bears to keep close. I think Seattle will win like a kind of low-scoring pride kind of game. 20-17, maybe Seattle. I'll take the Bears with the points. 2 bad teams. What can you do? Under 42.5 as well. Just an ugly, low-scoring game in Seattle late in the year. Whatever. Next up, Pittsburgh plus 7.5 at Kansas City. Huge game. Pittsburgh still hanging in there. Like, just when you think they're going to be out of it, they get another big win. Just erase a couple ugly losses off their resume. They'd be a top team in the AFC. It's just their offense kind of struggles sometimes. And then all of a sudden they have an outburst. They're a huge comeback the way they did against Minnesota. So it's hard to really understand what you're going to get from Pittsburgh on a game-to-game basis. But I think due to the fact they're still right in that hunt for the playoffs, Kansas City riding a big win streak. I feel like at some point that's got to end. They're, I think, easily the favorites in the AFC right now. I can see this being a little bit of a letdown spot. I think they'll still win, but 7.5. The fact that it's more than a touchdown, just got to take the Steelers. I just think they're obviously more desperate than the Chiefs are. The Chiefs obviously need this win too to keep pace and keep that hold on the number 1 spot in the AFC. But I could just see this being a little bit of a letdown spot for them. They won like 7 games in a row. I think now it's due to end. Still think they'll win that number 1 seed in the AFC. They'll probably be at least in the AFC Championship game. But the Steelers are still alive in that division. I mean, it's really not going to be settled until the last week probably. So I'll take the Steelers with the points. Probably to still lose, but I would not be surprised if the Steelers went into Kansas City and just won this game. If it was in Pittsburgh, I'd probably pick the Steelers to win outright. I think they'll at least keep it like 27-24. So with that, I'm taking the over 44.5. Chiefs defense still not... everyone was saying, the Chiefs defense is the big turnaround, but I don't know. They weren't great. They were not great against the Chargers. I know the Chargers are a really good offense, but I don't think the Chiefs defense is as great as some were saying, during the win streak, which is obviously still going on, but I think they're at worst, still a middle of the pack defense, but anyway, give me the over 44.5 here. I think the Chiefs could get off to a big lead, and then you could see Big Ben and the Steelers rally back the way they did against the Vikings and then come up short. So, give me Steelers points, 7.5, and the over. Next up, Denver, -1 at Las Vegas Raiders. Teddy B, probably out. Doesn't make a huge difference. He's still better than Drew Lock. Denver's defense playing really well. Will it be enough? I don't know. Raiders, obviously their season's over. I could see this being a pride spot for the Raiders, and I'm going to take them +1 and to win the game. Not been sold on the Broncos all year. They look good in flashes. Their defense is really good, but overall, they're a quarterback away from being a really good team, and they don't have one. So I'll take the Raiders, pride spot. Derek Carr, Seems like the kind of guy who's going to play hard no matter what. Their defense is decent enough. They'll, I think, win this game. So give me the Raiders. And the over 41.5, I just think it's too low, even though the Broncos defense is playing really well. The Raiders, I don't know. I just feel like this is the kind of game, divisional battle, two kind of middle-of-the-pack teams. Maybe some crazy shit will happen. I don't know. I just feel like I had some weird gut feeling on this over. I don't love it, but just had a feeling. Next up, Washington plus 10.5 at Dallas. Similar to the other NFC East game, Eagles and Giants. I think it's too many points. Obviously, Dallas is really good, but in a division game, unless one team is so significantly better, it's just a lot of points to lay when you're talking about more than just a touchdown and a field goal. You're talking 2 full touchdown possession difference. Just got to take the points. Who knows who's even going to be playing quarterback for Washington? I would assume Heineke's back by then, but who knows? Dallas didn't look convincing enough in their win against the Giants to really expect me to lay 10.5 on them, so I'll take Washington. And I'll take the under 47. Just thinking, I don't know. Dallas doesn't play as well at home. Games at home. Washington's defense, although they got a lot of guys out with COVID right now, I think is going to be, as they've been lately, feisty enough, and they're going to, I don't know, Dallas's offense, for all their weapons they have back, it's just, I don't know if it's just Dak not playing well. It's kind of been the theme for a little while now. Dak has not played like his early beginning of the season self. I don't know. It's going to be a low-scoring game, I feel like. I think Dallas maybe wins 23-17. So I'll take Washington with the points and the under. Dallas still to win the game, but it'll be close. It'll be tough, just like the first game was. Lastly, Miami Dolphins +3 at New Orleans. Had a hard time with this pick. End of the day, it boiled down to the game being in New Orleans, and again, Miami being on a big win streak. It's got to end at some point. I think this is the spot. Saints team playing well off their shutout win against the Bucs. The game was in Miami. I might feel a little different, but I just think, Miami's on that 6-game win streak themselves, but I think it's like they've played the Jets twice, the Giants, the Panthers, and then someone else. So they haven't really been tested a lot in that win streak. I just think going to New Orleans is going to be a different animal for them. And I could see them kind of struggling on offense, which they have even at times during this win streak. They didn't cover against the Jets last week. I don't know. I just think they're going to kind of fall back to earth a little bit here. So take the Saints -3. Saints obviously being in a desperation position themselves. They're like holding on to that, I think 7 or 6 seed. They need this win just like the Dolphins do. This is like a playoff game basically. Realistically speaking, the loser of this game, their playoff odds will drop dramatically. So it's basically a playoff game. And I just think the game being in New Orleans, 3 points isn't enough. So I'll take the Saints -3 in that crazy crowd. It's going to be hard for Tua, the offense of the Dolphins, to get much going. So I'll take a very low under 38.5 to wrap things up here. Very, very low total. I just think the Saints offense struggles on its own. So combine that with the fact that the crowd is going to be just crazy there. Playoff atmosphere. Dolphins will struggle to score. All of a sudden I started doing these predictions here. I'll say Saints win 17-13 in this game. 17-10 maybe even. So take Saints in the under. Those are my picks. I feel really good about them. So until next week.